Welcome to the Deep Dive. Great to have you with us, whether you're listening in or maybe watching on our YouTube channel. We've got a really fascinating stack of sources today, all focusing on a work that honestly has shaped millions of lives for nearly a century now. We are, of course, talking about Napoleon Hill's classic book, Think and Grow Rich. Now, you hear that title and probably think, okay, money, wealth creation. And yeah, it definitely covers that. But what our deep dive really pulls out is that it's actually much broader. It's more like a manual for achieving, well, any goal you set your mind to, personal stuff, business success, you name it. So our mission today is to really distill the key insights, the most important bits from this huge work, give you a clear shortcut, without you needing to read all those pages yourself. Okay, let's unpack this, because the story behind this book is just as compelling as the message itself. Maybe even more astonishing, really. Right at the core, Think and Grow Rich has this central idea. Thoughts are things. Seems simple, maybe a bit catchy. But Hill wasn't just talking affirmations here.
He argued that your thoughts, when you combine them with a real, definite purpose, persistence, and this burning desire, they aren't just ideas floating around. He believed they could literally be transmuted, like transformed into their physical counterpart. Money, sure, but also any objective you can vividly picture.
And that's why it mattered so much and still does. I mean, this idea really laid the groundwork for a huge amount of modern personal development. Before Hill, the concept that your own internal state, your main thoughts, could directly shape your external reality. And in such a systematic way, that was pretty revolutionary. It really shifted the conversation, opened the door for later ideas about manifestation, mindset, the power of belief. It put the responsibility squarely on your own mental discipline.
That's a powerful legacy right there. And speaking of powerful, that origin story.
Yeah.
It's just incredible, isn't it? So picture this. Young journalist Napoleon Hill, just starting out. He lands an interview with Andrew Carnegie. The Andrew Carnegie, steel magnate, one of the richest men ever. Okay, and here's where it gets really interesting. Carnegie apparently was just so impressed by Hill, his drive, his curiosity. So he throws down this unbelievable challenge. He basically dares Hill to spend the next 20 years of his life unpaid, studying the principles of success. And not just studying theory, interviewing over 500 of the most successful people that time. We're talking Henry Ford, Thomas Edison, Bell, even President Teddy Roosevelt. And Hill, amazingly, said yes. A 20-year unpaid mission, Think and Grow Rich, is basically the result of all that research, boiled down into a philosophy and steps you can actually take.
Yeah, the importance of that origin story, you just can't overstate it. It makes the book feel less like just another self-help theory and more like researched findings, drawn straight from what hundreds of real high achievers actually did. That gives Hill's ideas enormous weight. It's like a manual based on the practices of the most successful people of his day. It really validates the principles, makes them feel tested, not just, wishful thinking.
Absolutely. So after all that research, interviewing all those titans, Hill distilled it down to these 13 steps to riches. These are the core principles, the blueprint he saw repeated again and again, and they're meant to be actionable, things you can think about and try applying. Let's start at step 1. The very first step, the absolute starting point, desire. But this isn't just, oh, I'd kind of like that, is it? Hill meant something much deeper.
Exactly. He calls it a burning desire. It's intense, almost an obsession with your goal, whether it's money or a career thing or changing something personal. It's the kind of desire that, keeps you fired up. And crucially, he didn't just say feel it. He gave a very specific 6-step method to make that desire concrete, real in your mind.
A 6-step method for desire. Tell us about that. It sounds practical.
It's very practical. First, fix the exact amount of money or the precise goal, no vagueness. Second, determine exactly what you'll give in return. Success needs input, effort, sacrifice. Third, set a definite date. Creates urgency. Fourth, create a clear plan, and importantly, start now, whether you feel ready or not. Fifth, write all 4 points down, clearly, on paper. And sixth, this is key, read that statement aloud twice a day, night before sleep, morning when you wake up. It's about embedding it deep in your subconscious, making it a conviction.
Which leads perfectly into step 2, faith. So if desire is the fuel, faith, Hill said, is the eternal elixir giving power to your thoughts. What did he mean? Sound like more than just belief.
Oh, it is. It's absolute, unwavering belief you will achieve it. Not just hoping, but knowing deep down, even when things look tough. And Hill suggested you can build this faith, cultivate it, through autosuggestion, repeating your definite purpose again and again. It's about consciously feeding your mind supportive beliefs, pushing out the doubt.
And that connects right to step 3, autosuggestion. Basically, actively feeding your subconscious mind those positive affirmations, visualizing the goal clearly, like self-hypnosis almost.
Precisely. You're impressing on your subconscious what you want,
Yeah.
programming it. And that programming then starts to guide your actions, your choices, even what you notice, steering you towards the goal without you having to constantly force it, like setting a mental GPS.
Okay, step 4, specialized knowledge. Now, Hill made a key distinction here, didn't he? It wasn't about knowing everything.
Exactly right. General knowledge is fine, but for big goals, for wealth, Hill argued you need specialized knowledge in your specific field, product, service. But here's the crucial part. You don't have to possess it all yourself. What's vital is knowing how to get it, mentors, courses, research, and even more vital, knowing how to apply it. And this is often where that mastermind group comes in. Leveraging collective knowledge without needing to be the expert on everything yourself. It's about finding answers and using them.
Which brings us neatly to step 5, imagination. Hill called it the workshop of the mind, where plans get made, ideas spark. He saw 2 kinds.
Yes, synthetic imagination. That's like rearranging old ideas into new combinations, taking what exists and tweaking it. And then there's creative imagination. This is where, according to Hill, totally new original ideas, those hunches, come from. He thought they came from infinite intelligence.
That creative side sounds fascinating, important for innovation.
Absolutely. It's critical for problem-solving breakthroughs. What's insightful is that distinction, just rearranging versus tapping into something deeper for truly novel ideas. It's about cultivating a mind open to those aha moments.
Right. Okay, step 6, organized planning. Because a burning desire, even with imagination, is useless without a plan, right?
That's what Hill implies. What's fascinating is that direct link he saw between speed and firmness of decision-making and actual success. Indecision was a major roadblock for him.
Okay, so desire, faith, planning, decision. But what happens when things get tough? When you hit obstacles? Hill had a step for that. Persistence.
Absolutely crucial. He saw persistence as, well, more than just willpower. It's a sustained effort that actually builds your faith. It's the discipline to keep going despite setbacks. And that act of continuing, it reinforces your belief, reshapes things. He observed most failures weren't due to lack of talent, but simply quitting too soon. At the first sign of trouble, think Edison and the light bulb, thousands of tries. That's the persistence Hill admired and documented.
So again, individual effort, inner belief. But Hill also believed in synergy. Step 9, power of the mastermind. This isn't just networking, is it? He saw it as something more potent.
Much more. Hill truly believed that when 2 or more minds work together in perfect harmony, aiming for the same definite purpose, they create something extra. A third invisible mastermind force. He felt this collective energy provided immense power, way beyond just adding the individual brains together. It amplified creativity, problem solving. Think about, say, Jobs and Wozniak in the early Apple days, or a great band improvising. It's that synergy, that collective spark that creates something new. That's the force multiplier Hill was talking about.
Now, step 10 often makes people pause a bit. The mystery of sex transmutation. This one might surprise you. Hill's idea is that the powerful energy of the sex drive, it can be redirected.
Yes, transmuted was his word. He argued this incredibly strong human emotion, this drive, doesn't have to be only physical expression. It can be channeled, redirected into a potent creative force, fueling ambition, creativity, that persistent effort needed for big goals. It's about taking a fundamental, powerful, natural energy and consciously directing it towards your definite purpose instead of letting it scatter. He saw it as a key to unlocking a higher level of personal drive and achievement.
Interesting perspective.
Yeah.
Okay, step 11. The subconscious mind. He calls it the connecting link. We know it stores beliefs, habits, emotions, but how is it a connecting link in his system?
Hill saw it as having 2 roles. It's the sending station, broadcasting your dominant thoughts and desires out into the world, metaphorically speaking. And it's also the receiving station, where you get intuitive ideas, inspirations, those flashes of insight that seem to come from nowhere. It's the medium through which autosuggestion works and how intuition speaks to you.
Following that, step 12. The brain, which he describes as a broadcasting and receiving station for thought. This is where he talks about the brain acting like a radio, sending and receiving thought vibrations. Now, that can sound a bit metaphysical today. How do we handle that?
That's a really good point. His language here definitely reflects the era, that literal radio brain idea. There's no scientific proof for it as we understand neuroscience today. But the underlying principle is still incredibly relevant to modern psychology. Think about the power of consistent self-talk, the influence of our environment, our focus. Even if it's not literal vibrations, our dominant thoughts absolutely shape our perception, our actions, and attract corresponding opportunities. Maybe through cognitive biases, focused attention, who we connect with. You could see it as a potent metaphor for how focus and belief systems shape reality, even if the mechanism he proposed was, well, speculative. It's about programming your awareness.
Right, finding the practical core within the older language. And finally, step 13, the peak, the sixth sense, the door to the temple of wisdom. This sounds like high-level intuition, creative imagination fully unlocked.
Exactly. He described it as a state where your subconscious is so attuned, maybe to that infinite intelligence he mentioned, that you start getting warnings, insights, opportunities without conscious reasoning. It's that gut feeling, that sudden knowing. But Hill was clear. This is the final step. You only really master it after integrating and practicing the first 12. It's the culmination.
So those are the 13 steps, but Hill also highlighted the things that stop people, the internal roadblocks.
Yes, he talked about the 6 ghosts of fear. He saw these as the great ambition killers, the fear of poverty, of criticism, of ill health, loss of love, old age, and death. He believed these fears could paralyze people. Think about it. Fear of criticism stops you starting. Fear of poverty keeps you in a job you hate. Hill said you have to identify these fears in yourself and consciously conquer them, move forward despite them, a powerful psychological point.
It is. Now, we should acknowledge Think and Grow Rich, while timeless in many ways, does have aspects that feel dated, or where the claims are, let's say, less scientifically provable today.
Absolutely. And it's fair to point that out. It's definitely a product of its time. You see that in the examples. Mostly men of that era. And yes, the more metaphysical claims, the literal thought vibrations, infinite intelligence as a direct source, those lack the kind of proof modern science looks for. They're debated. But if we connect this to the bigger picture, despite any criticisms, the book's status as a cornerstone of self-help is undeniable. Why? Because those core psychological principles, setting definite goals, positive mental attitude, planning, sheer persistence, the power of collaboration, they are absolutely timeless. They really form the foundation for so much modern success thinking. It gives you this powerful framework for focusing your mind and taking disciplined action. That's its enduring power, regardless of how you interpret every single concept.
It really is remarkable. A book from the 1930s still having this impact. It's clearly more than just about money. It's a guide to mastering your own mind, channeling desire, taking action to, well, whatever outcome you really commit to. It puts the power back in your hands, suggesting your internal world strongly shapes your external one. So maybe reflect on which of those 13 steps really jumped out at you today. Where might you start applying something? Is it getting crystal clear on a desire using those 6 steps? Building faith, finding your mastermind.
And maybe a final thought to leave you with. Take an honest look. How many of your daily actions are truly consciously aligned with a burning desire and a definite plan? What one small step could you take, maybe even right now, to start turning a thought, an aspiration, into its physical reality?
Something to consider. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into Napoleon Hill's incredibly influential work. We appreciate you listening. And for those watching online, thanks for tuning in. Until next time, keep thinking and keep growing.